When you live with fibromyalgia, CFS or ME, your energy can disappear without warning. You already know some things drain it fast, but did you know other things can actually restore it? In this video, I'll share with you the strategies I use to live well and happily despite fibromyalgia and chronic asthma. And these strategies have now been backed up by scientific research too. So I'll also add in some of the research references. This video is packed to the end, full of practical tips, so let's get straight into it by first looking at why our energy is so unpredictable. Your body is constantly juggling two big jobs, repairing itself and managing stress. If you watch my previous video on sleep, you'll remember that most repair happens while you're sleeping. If your sleep is poor, your body starts each day already behind. I'll link that sleep video up here, and if you click on the link, it'll open up in another window, which means that you can carry on watching this video and then go to that one afterwards. Now, part of the reason Fibro Energy feels so unstable is because of something called the autonomic nervous system. This is the system that quietly keeps everything running in the background. It controls your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, even temperature. The body processes that we don't consciously have to think about. In fibromyalgia, long COVID, and other chronic illnesses, this autonomic system can become dysregulated. Some signs of this from when I had long COVID were palpitations, when your heartbeat suddenly quickens, you sigh or yawn more often to catch up your breathing and your oxygen level, or sudden temperature fluctuations that feel like hot flushes or sudden chills. When dysregulated, our body then works overtime just to keep those basic functions steady. So we're burning energy before we've even done anything at all. So the goal at this stage isn't to increase energy, it's to stabilize it. And that starts with accepting where your energy really is right now. If you try to live as you always did, you'll hit the same wall again and again. So how do we deal with this? Well, you stop, reset, and ask yourself, where am I today? What's my energy right now? You do a small task, then pause and check in again before doing the next. Monitoring your energy level will give you better days with less symptoms, and in turn that will decrease stress and pain from tension. So you can see this becomes a healing cycle rather than a vicious cycle. Next, let's look at the everyday things that drain your energy and the surprising ones that restore it. Think of your energy like a bank account. Everything you do is either a withdrawal or a deposit. Common drainers include noise, stress, multitasking, over-exercising, and things like skipping meals and not drinking enough water. Even emotional stress can empty the tank quickly. Energy restorers are the things that quietly give back. So quiet time, gentle movement, laughter, creativity, and your wellness tools that we've talked about before, the things that soothe and lift us. For me, that might be watching a light-hearted show on TV, writing a few lines in my journal, getting a hug, or sitting outside with a cup of tea listening to the birds. Nature has a powerful healing and relaxing effect on us. Now, researchers call this attention restoration theory. Try saying that fast 3 times. This is the idea that gentle, natural movements and activities help your brain recover from mental fatigue and restore focus. So it's not just about resting and doing nothing. It's about incorporating those soothing things into your life. And the more often you do, the more energy you get back and save. Now let's have a look at staying within your personal energy limits, the pacing tool that changed everything for me. Some people call it spoon theory. Researchers call it the energy envelope theory. The idea is simple. If you stay within your daily energy budget, whether that's spoons or envelopes, you reduce flares and fatigue. I like to think of it as a phone battery. You can't stream HD video all day without plugging your phone in. But if you take short recharges between tasks, it lasts much longer. That's what pacing does. You balance use and recovery throughout the day. You learn to pause before you crash. So how many spoons or how much battery did you start today with? Now adjust your day and your activities accordingly. At first, it feels a bit strange, especially if you're a doer like me, but it is one of the most powerful habits you can build. Okay, so this is section 4, spotting your early warning signs. This was a turning point for me. If you really think back to your last flare, you'll probably remember little clues before it hit, tiny things you didn't even take seriously at the time. Noticing these can help manage your energy every day to stop crashes. As an example, for me, one of those signs was breaking plates or cups. I'd be washing dishes and suddenly knock one on the tap. At first, I laughed it off, but eventually I realized it always happened right before a flare. When I'm well, that never happens. It's like my brain and body can't coordinate properly when I'm overtired. Once I noticed it, I started seeing other patterns too. Maybe a little tension in my neck, or the start of a headache, a bit of nausea, or forgetting simple words. Those are my body's way of saying, stop now, I'm running low. Your signs might be completely different, but if you start writing them down, you'll see them sooner. So I've been doing this since back in 2006 when I first did my wellbeing program. Eventually, in 2011, studies were done and results came out on this exact strategy. They confirmed that self-monitoring early cues really can predict and prevent flare-ups. So yes, it's science-backed, but it's also common sense and self-kindness. So try that. After this video, write down some of your early warning signs. Let's share some in the comments so we can learn together. You might mention something that I realise is a sign for me too. Next, we'll talk about how to pace, not just your day, but your whole week and even your emotional energy. So pacing isn't just about tasks, it's about time and emotion too. Daily pacing is about alternating activity and rest. Clean for 10 minutes and then sit down for 5, or the other way round. Plan a couple of jobs for the day and no more. After doing that, focus on your wellness tools to keep your body in that safe zone and out of the stress zone. Weekly pacing means looking at the whole week, having a lighter day before and after a heavier day, so you can recover. Booking appointments in the afternoons only, as mornings can be difficult for us, and not booking outings 2 days in a row, wherever possible. And emotional pacing is about limiting draining conversations and setting boundaries. Noise, crowds, even outings can drain you, so plan recovery time afterwards. Limit the time with negative people and environments as far as you can. I also want to mention deadlines here as a special case. I personally avoid them as much as possible. They trigger stress and push you to overdo it. If you must meet a deadline, start earlier and do a bit each day instead of leaving it all to one go. I know it's easier said than done, but this is vital now for your health. And if someone gives you a tight deadline, be honest. Say, I can do it, but I need more time in order to maintain my health. So how do we rest with fibro or any other chronic illness? Endless lying down isn't the answer. I learned this the hard way when I had my first episode of fibro and stayed in bed for 3 months. My body was in extreme pain, so I thought that was the right thing to do. But over-resting can actually make you stiffer, more foggy, and weaken your muscles. What does help is short, structured rest, mixed with short amounts of activity. This was so hard for me at first. I've always been a doer. I like finishing things, and that's how I used to feel useful. But I learned that pushing through just to finish a task would wipe me out for the rest of the day. I learned a useful phrase from an occupational therapist once, which has stuck with me. Push to start, don't push to finish. That's this week's mantra for you. Now I do things in small steps. If I've been out harvesting vegetables, I'll soak them when I get back in, and then I'll sit down for 10 minutes with a warm drink. Later, I'll wash and store them. Those short breaks mean that I still finish the job, just without the crash afterwards from standing for too long. Rest can be as simple as sitting down with gentle music, looking out of the window, or lying down for a few minutes with an eye mask and headphones. You can try box breathing when you're resting. That's for breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4, or the 4-7-8 method that I've talked about quite often. And this will calm your nervous system, giving a boost to your rest. If you feel guilty for resting, remember that that objection usually comes from you and not anyone else. Believe me, you deserve rest. Now let's talk about how to track your energy so you can see the patterns and help others understand your needs too. Self-awareness is the foundation of pacing. You need to understand where you are each day and plan what you can do accordingly, as I've said before. But how do you do that practically? So try using a simple traffic light system: green for good days, amber for slow down, and red for rest. You can jot it on a notebook for yourself, or you can put it on a whiteboard or a notice board in your kitchen so that your family knows where you're at on that day. If they see amber, hopefully they'll know to be extra kind and give you some space. Activity diaries and energy logs have been shown in studies to reduce overexertion and improve predictability in fibro. Now, to help you do this, I've created a tracker that you can download and print off. The link is in the description below. This will ask you for your email so that I can send you the tracker. Please be assured that your information will be kept secure and only used by me, not passed on to anyone else. This tracker will help you spot your early warning signs and understand your patterns. Now, next we're going to look at the most common pacing mistakes and how to avoid them. So some of these I've touched on before, and we all make these mistakes, and that's how we learn. But here are the big 4. Waiting until you crash to rest. Now, try to rest before the crash. Think of it as maintenance, not failure. Train yourself to include regular stops in your day. Set reminders on your phone if that helps you build that habit. Mistake number 2, feeling guilty for resting. I want you to reframe that in your mind as recovery training, recharging your batteries. Rest is how you teach your body safety and how you build habits for a healthier, low-symptom life. 3, doing nothing all day. If we stay still too long, it can reduce your muscle strength and mobility over time, as I said before. But actually, 5 minutes of doing nothing is a very good practice for us fibro heroes. My therapist once told me to sit and do nothing, and I had no idea how to start. Eventually, I learned that just sitting and staring out of the window, letting your thoughts drift by, can calm your whole system. Try it for 5 minutes. It's a reset, not a waste. But don't do nothing and rest for the whole week. That won't help you in the long term. Mistake number 4, overscheduling good days. When you suddenly have energy, it's so tempting to catch up on everything. But that's how crashes happen. Use that energy for completing a couple of tasks, then use the remainder for connection and joy. Spend time with family or do something you enjoy from your wellness tools list. In this way, you still have energy for the next day and the next. Finally, let's bring this all together. What to do during a flare and how to rebuild afterwards. During a flare, cut life right back to the essentials. Focus on rest, nutrition, hydration, and comfort. And the daily maintenance things we covered in earlier videos, like making sure you take your meds, eating the right amount, and things like that, that part of your daily needs. If you live alone, plan ahead, batch cook when you're well, or keep frozen meals and quick snacks on hand. For example, when I'm flaring, I always ask my husband to get some gluten-free bread and soup. So I have that nearby. It's something easy that still nourishes me. As you start recovering, go slowly. Reintroduce activity the way you'd retrain a muscle. Small steps. The 10% rule helps. Increase a little, not a lot. Make sure to keep your anchor habits like morning light, gentle stretching, hydration, and that will help your body gently relearn its rhythm. My next video is going to go deeper into pain and flare management, so make sure you're subscribed if you're interested in that. Now let's finish with a simple reframe, one that can completely change how you think about energy. Energy management isn't about living smaller, it's about living smarter. Every time you pause before a crash, every time you rest without guilt, you're teaching your body, I'm listening now, you're safe. That's how healing begins and the journey towards more good days than bad. If this helped you, share it with someone learning to pace their fibro or chronic illness life. And please give it a like. That really helps the channel reach more people. Until next time, take care of yourself and be well.